Tonight, Electoral Commission finally ready to press on with highly controversial compilation on new voters register set to commence next week as it deploys mobile health teams empowered to remove suspected COVID-19 patients during registration process.
We're not specific about the date, but last week
you still don't have a date for the registration.
We have, but for some strategic reasons, we said that last week of June we'll start, then ending of July we'll finish.
We'll bring you the very latest. The NDC and the PNC boycotted today's IPAC meeting where the decision was communicated to the parties. We'll hear from both parties and examine the COVID-19 protocols spelled out by the Commission at this meeting.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Mon Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion is also brought to you by Gas and Cement, the Nation Build, and Vodafone. The future is exciting. There's finally clarity tonight on when the Electoral Commission is beginning its very controversial, highly controversial compilation of the voters register. A pilot is beginning as early as next week, and the process itself is expected to commence last week of June to the end of July. And we're going to be getting into the details of how they intend to make this run within the climate of COVID-19 and safely, so it doesn't facilitate the spread of the virus. Now, this is also happening, the communication of the dates today, of the time frame for the compilation of voters register is happening at a time when it is still pretty uncertain when the constitutional instrument in Parliament currently will formally mature for it to become law that will then empower the Electoral Commission to commence with this particular process. And many believe the reason why a clear, specific date and rather a broad time frame has now been set for the parties is because of that, in anticipation of the CI maturing. But we know for certain now that the pilot of the compilation will begin next week as the EC stress tests its systems, especially in the climate of COVID-19. The parties, though, were there in their numbers and conspicuously missing today at this inter-party advisory committee meeting where the main opposition National Democratic Congress and the PNC, the People's National Convention. Now, these two parties boycotted the IPAC meetings. We're going to be getting a sense of why very soon by listening to the EC's Director of Electoral Services, Dr. Siribo Kweku, as he lays out the roadmap towards the compilation.
So we told them that we are going to start the registration last week of June and finish by the last week of ending of July. We're not specific about the date, but last week.
You still don't have a date for the registration exercise?
We have, but for some strategic reasons, we said that last week of June we'll start, then ending of July we'll finish. We are using the clustering system, so the polling stations will be grouped into groups of 5, and each 5 will be a cluster. So what it means is that if you have a district has 50 polling stations, then they still have 10 clusters of 5s. So what it will mean is that if you take if you take one cluster, the team will be at the first polling station for 6 days. Then on the 7th day, they will rest and retool themselves.
Okay. Then
they go to the next receiving center, the second one, for 6 days. 6 days. Then they will retool again. Then the next day, they move to the third one, 6 days, retool. Fourth one, 6 days, retool, and the 5th one, 6 days, and retool. Then they will assess what they have done. They say that when they went to polling station A or B or C, we heard that we wouldn't capture almost everybody. So let's give them additional 3 days as mop-up. Then they will hit the areas that they think they couldn't cover everybody. In addition to that, especially in the urban areas, where we realize that the place is crowded, we have what we call the mobile team. The mobile team will move into that place to help clear that number of people at the center. So this is what we are doing to do the station. Okay. Technically, we are going to use 6 and 5, that will be 30. Then in between the retooling days will be 4, so that will be 34. Then after they are finished with the 34 days, they will use the 35th day to assess what has been done. Then they will look at the centers that they need to do the mopping up for 3 days. So that will give you 38 days.
Now, there is a legal document that will empower the Electoral Commission to go ahead and compile the voters' register. That is a constitutional instrument which is currently still gathering the days in Parliament. It requires 21 days for it to become law. Where we stand right now, it's like 15 days. It's been 15 days and counting now, left with 6 days for it to become law. But there's a big if there. The Subsidiary Legislation Committee, which is actually examining this particular CI, is yet to still present its report to the plenary in Parliament for it to be debated. Now, its report will form a basis for making a decision, whether Parliament making a decision, whether the CI should be allowed to carry on and mature and become law, or be withdrawn and amended. And in the absence of that report, can the Electoral Commission still go ahead and plan with the specificity that we are now hearing? One of the controversial things in the CI is the identity documents you require to be registered. That is something that you cannot move on until the CI becomes law. Now listen to the Deputy Commissioner for the Electoral Commission, Dr. Bosman Asari, talk about the requirements for registration, and that requirement is only specified in this particular CI.
And we also announced to them the protocols we have put in place to ensure that the voting process is very, very peaceful, is very, very safe, and also secure. And beyond that, we also told the parties that the requirements are the possession of a Ghana card. If you don't have the Ghana card, the passport is acceptable. But in the event that you don't have the Ghana card and you don't also have the passport, what it means is that 2 people who are registered to vote can guarantee for you to be able to register.
Now, all the details that he spells out, the details that has been captured in the CI, which is a subject of some great controversy in Parliament. There's already a motion seeking, asking Parliament to reject the CI. If that CI, for some reason, because of the position, doesn't get to pass, or the is substantial enough basis is raised by the committee for it to be withdrawn, then it's the whole process of counting the 21 days must start again, which then will make it impossible for the Electoral Commission to in fact implement its voter registration in the time frame is now specified to the parties, as in ending of June, ending of June, ending July. Next week the pilot is beginning. So there are a lot of moving parts to this particular conversation that we are now getting some clarity on from the Electoral Commission. However, the New Patriotic Party is happy with where the Electoral Commission is tonight, with the compilation of voters register and the protocols that I will soon tell you they are putting in place to prevent the further spread of COVID-19 within the climate of registering prospective voters. Listen to John Bodu, who is the General Secretary of the NPP, speaking to my colleague Parker Wilson at the Electoral Commission today, right after the IPAC meeting.
Very soon, per the law, 21 days to any national exercise, they need to inform us. So the specific date will be given to us in the course of time, which means that it will take about almost 40 days. So they will be finishing by end of July as well.
Right.
Per the report the NIA gave, it means that we have close to 3.7 million people who have registered but they've not been issued a card. I think that within the period in question, the NIA is expected to also issue these cards to qualified registrants for these cards. In addition to that, there are people who also have not enrolled at all, close to 7 million. So what it means is that NIA within this period must also go ahead to make sure that a lot more people who are qualified to register with them register, so that they can have the basis for them to register as voters of this country. We want to avoid a lot of people being vouched for. So it means that within these measures that has been put together by Electoral Commission, NIA will take a cue in order to ensure that people who don't as yet have a Ghana card will be able to have Ghana card for them to be part of the process.
But General, is it your estimation that the NIA will be able to achieve this within this limited period? Because you're already the end of May, and you see late June, if you begin the registration process. In your estimation,
this is the person that should go to NIA, considering how important.
But you're a stakeholder in this election.
Well, I will wish that they are able to do it within 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I disagree with the position that they will do a mop-up in some few areas that they think that they were unable to do it. Because if you consider, and if I want to be political about it, if you consider the number of people who have not yet received their cards, Central Region, Ashanti Region, Eastern Region, and Greater Accra alone constitute about 68% of those who have not received their card yet. All the other regions, 12 regions, constitute just around 32%. So if we want to talk about connivance of NIA to disenfranchise people, it is we, the New Patriotic Party, that will lose a lot. When you have 4 of our strongholds, Central Region, Ashanti Region, Greater Accra and Eastern Region, constituting 68% of those who have not yet been issued their cards, who should be complaining? It is the New Patriotic Party who should be complaining.
Then isn't there enough grounds?
Wait. It is the New Patriotic Party who will be complaining. Right. So for anybody to think that we are rather in connivance with NIA begs the question. I don't think that they even understand what they are talking about. If you come to the number of people who are qualified to be enrolled, who are not yet enrolled, if you take these 4 regions in question, Ashanti, Eastern, Central, and Greater Accra, close to 45% of the total population who are qualified to be enrolled, who are not yet enrolled, comes from this region. To the extent that over 1 million people in Ashanti region who are qualified to be enrolled, have not been enrolled. So any attempt by NIA to do a mop-up without doing a mass registration will not sit well with us. So it is, I'm telling you. So it is not as for the NDC. They are only making noise. Maybe they are aware of this, and because of that, they want to just make some kind of noise in order to stop the NIA from doing mass registration. Within this period in question, it is important to note that a lot more people who are qualified to be enrolled on the NIA roll have not yet been done. Those who have been done have not yet been issued their cards. Within the period, NIA, if considering our situation, should be able to issue their cards to them and also go ahead to do mass registration, not mop-up.
But that's what many have said that. I mean, why don't you use the existing voter ID card to avert all this chaos and confusion? That's
why will it avert all this chaos and confusion?
Well, my colleague Parker Wilson spent the day at the Electoral Commission and joins me in the studio. Parker, I watched the videos you sent. What I saw, remarkably, was just the security presence, the armed police presence that invaded the place today. It was as if there was something. They anticipated something was about to happen. What sense did you get when you were there?
Yes, in fact, the moment you get to the Electoral Commission, you get the feeling that there's something going on there. Probably there's chaos, there's misunderstanding, and that is why the security personnel have been stationed to provide security there. And Evans, all the entry points and the exit points had about 4 armed policemen stationed there with their FPE vehicles, about 4 of them stationed right in front of the Electoral Commission and the main exit of the Electoral Commission as well. So the vehicles were just stationed there with about 6 police officers in there just waiting, fully armed this morning. And so,
and I also saw in the picture, apart from the entrance, the security officers they seem to line the entire stretch of the Electoral Commission.
You see the length of the wall with the Electoral Commission. In fact, the security officials were the opposite side, lined right from one end to the other, including the vehicles that I talked about.
So they were lining the wall.
So they were more like lining the wall,
so that if you want to climb into the yard,
it's not possible of a sort. And you move from one point, getting to another block, you realize that there's another police checkpoint there, asking series of questions. And the main block where the meeting was going on, in fact, it's a 3-story building. Every floor had policemen stationed there asking questions. So by the time you get to the last floor, which is the 3rd floor, you had gone through about 6 police checkpoints before getting to the main conference room. And even in front of the conference room, there were about 6 police officers also stationed there as well. So that's the nature of security you're talking about today at the Electoral Commission.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to the Electoral Commission, even the most severe, seemingly chaotic times in elections. This one really was up there with all of them in terms of the security deployment today. I guess going into this, the concerns were about the disagreements that the EC is having with mainly the NDC and the allies.
Yeah.
The NDC boycotted it.
The NDC boycotted it, Evans. I mean, just yesterday, they had already indicated that they're going to decline the invitation to attend this IPAC meeting, even though they acknowledged that the Electoral Commission extended an invitation to them. And the EC themselves admitted that, yes, they were actually expecting the NDC to attend the meeting so that they continue with the conversation and let them know about the roadmap that they have outlined for the compilation of the new age. But it's unfortunate that they didn't attend the meeting, though they cannot talk about the merit of the boycott, but all they know is that the NDC did not show up at today's IPAC meeting. With the NDC, they had concerns with the structure of today's meeting.
The NDC?
The NDC, yes. And this is not the first time the NDC is having such a concern. The 25th March meeting as well, they had a similar concern where the Electoral Commission decided to convene this meeting in 2 sessions, where it was going to meet the about 6 political parties in the morning and also about 8 political parties in the afternoon. Now the concern the NDC raised was that there is no way there will be a proper resolution as far as the meeting is concerned, because one group will come and take a decision and the other group also come and take another decision. Since they are all political parties and interested stakeholders in the election process, it will be prudent and appropriate to get all of them under one roof, so that they can judge your dialogue and come to a conclusion as to what they need to do going forward. And that's the main reason why the NDC decided to boycott today's IPAC meeting.
But the NDC isn't the only party boycotted today's party.
The PNC. The PNC also had a similar concern, same as the NDC. Now, the national organizer of the party was at today's meeting. Now, interestingly, when I spoke to him, he told me that they had written to the Electoral Commission to explain why the EC was holding the meeting in 2 parts, but they've not received any official correspondence from the Electoral Commission. So they were there today to get an understanding why the EC was doing that. And if I want to quote the national organizer, that is Dominic Chumesi Into, he tells me that Dr. Eric Bosman, the deputy commissioner, asked him what he was doing at the IPAC meeting, since they did not receive any official communication from the Electoral Commission. And then he realized that he was not welcome in the meeting, and so he staged a walk down.
Okay. I want to bring in now the National Communications Officer of the NDC, Mr. Sami Jemfi, joins us on the telephone line right now. Mr. Jemfi, thank you for your time on Top Story.
Thanks for having me, Evans.
So the NDC did not attend today's IPAC meeting. Aren't you shooting yourself in the foot because the timeline is set now? The EC is going ahead, and yet you are not briefed on how this is going to proceed, although the outcome will affect your interest.
Evans, thank you. Even before we deal with the announcement by the EC that they will be going ahead with the new voter registration exercise sometime in the last week of June 2020, let me state that as a party, we are still in utter shock about media reports that the IPAC meeting, which was slated for today, has already taken place. And that is because the letter we received from the Electoral Commission inviting us to this meeting stated that the time for today's meeting is 10 p.m. That is the letter we received. And I forwarded copies of the letter to yourself and your colleague, Parker Wilson.
Okay, if I may read just for the avoidance.
Let me just give you a background so that you are
avoidance of that. I mean, because you quoted it, because you just quoted it.
I just want to explain to you because there are two letters.
Okay.
There's
the second letter.
Okay.
Okay.
So we on the 19th of May 2020, we received a letter from the Electoral Commission inviting us to an IPAC meeting on the 27th of March, which is today. But that letter was dated 19th of May 2010. So we thought that it was an error. Few minutes after we got the letter, we received a call from the EC that indeed they had made an error with the date on the letter. And so they were bringing us the accurate version of the letter to redraw the one which was in error. So they brought the accurate letter. And that one had the correct date, 19th May 2020. You can see that on your WhatsApp. By the time of the meeting, as captured in that letter, is 10 p.m. And so even though we were not planning to participate in the deliberations at today's IPAC, just as we did at the 25th IPAC meeting, we're going to send a representative to go and raise preliminary objections about the legality of the meeting and the mood the EC was adopting for the meeting, and to draw their attention to a letter we have sent to them some months ago, making proposals about how the EC can conduct legal IPAC meetings within the framework of the EI 65, which has been promulgated by His Excellency the President, and in accordance with COVID-19 precautionary protocols of social distancing and so on. We've written to them, raising these issues, making proposals for their consideration. They haven't deemed it necessary to reply our letter, and they are still proceeding on that path. And so we're going to send a rep at the scheduled time, which was communicated to us in that invitation letter, 10 p.m., to go there and raise these preliminary issues. And that, based on their response, decide whether to participate in the deliberations or to boycott like we did the last time.
Okay.
Only for us to learn in the media that the meeting has already taken place.
Okay, I mean, I've seen this letter, and this letter that you referred, this is the one with the 19th May 2020 a date on it, and it has the signature that looks like that of Dr. Bosman. I say it looks like because we're trying to get the EC to tell us why, because indeed what you say is what I see there. Time is 10 p.m. today, 27th, asking you to come for this IPAC meeting due to the directive of the president not to have social gatherings, etc., to talk about a few things. So we're trying to get clarity on that. But you're saying that you're still going to go to the EC at 10 p.m.
No, but now we are learning that the meeting has already taken place, and so we've asked our official, who is the elections director of the party, to. We've drawn his attention to the fact that the meeting has already taken place. And you see, this is shameful. This is unacceptable. The EC is a commission. It is an established institution. They have 7 commissioners. They have a lot of staff there who we pay with our taxes. Okay? So you write an invitation to a political party inviting us to an important IPAC meeting, which was to discuss very important issues which are critical to the next general elections. You get the date wrong. I mean, we are all human beings. You can get that wrong. you call yourself admitting that you got that wrong, and then you write a second letter to withdraw the first letter you got wrong. And you tell us that this letter is the accurate one, so the information in here is accurate. So we said, okay, we will come. Like we came the last time. Our Deputy General Secretary, Peter Otukono, was there at the last meeting. He sat through the deliberations. It was upon raising preliminary objections about the mode of the meeting and the legality of it relative to CI 65, which prescribes institutions which are not essential service providers like the Electoral Commission from holding meetings, and also the fact that the EC was seeking to break the meeting into two, and have us discuss the same agenda in turns. I mean, based on their response, we decided to boycott it. So we're going to do that again this time around and see if they were going to give us some convincing or assuring response. Only for us to learn that the meeting has taken place. So even the question you must ask them when you indeed confirm these two letters from them is why other political parties got to know of the right time for the meeting and the NDC never got to know.
Okay, so that is what
if it was a general mistake. If it was a general mistake, then we should have all gotten 10 p.m.
Okay.
And if there was any subsequent communication to political parties that we got the time wrong, then the NDC should have received same. But this is a case that we never received same. Okay. And we are saying that the fact that other political parties got to know of the appropriate time meant that they got the appropriate communication relative to the time of the meeting. How come nobody reached out to us to communicate this to us? Were they doing that deliberately to ensure that we weren't there at the meeting? Was that the agenda? And are we to believe what some people have started, saying that it is just a mistake? It's just a mistake that an institution writes a letter to a political party, they get the date wrong, then they write another letter seeking to replace the wrong letter, and in that state a specific time, and they tell us to rely on the content of that letter, only for us to tell us that they got it. That's true.
Mr. Jeffrey, just hold the line for me briefly, because I've been checking with the MPP just also to verify which letter exactly they received. Parker has a copy of the letter that was sent to the MPP. What does he say?
Yeah, so I have this one from the NPP and the PMC as well. And Evans, it appears that the date is correct, Wednesday, the 27th of May, 2020. I don't know if that's what you have there.
Yeah, Wednesday, 27th May, 2020.
Good. And then time here is also 10 p.m.
Okay, so the 10 p.m. time was the same that was also sent to the MPP and
the PMC. Yeah, I have a copy of the letter from the PMC and the MPP as well.
And the PMC did not go for the meeting. However, they sent a rep and went and came there at the right time. Right, although they had concerns with the arrangement of the meeting. The national organizer was there this morning around 10 a.m. to ask questions or find out why the AC would want to convey this meeting or organize this meeting in turns. And he got the information and boycotted or staged a walkout. Okay, so the point I'm trying to clarify is all MPP, PNC, NDC all got the same letter,
and the possibility that the CPP and the party also have the same
all time. Communicating 10 p.m.
exactly.
Meeting. NDC and PNC boycotted, but PNC sent a rep to go and clarify a few issues.
Exactly.
But the rep got there at the time the meeting was actually happening.
That is at 10 a.m.
At 10 a.m.
Right.
Which presupposes that although the letter was 10 p.m. formally to them, they somehow soon knew that it was 10 a.m.
So there's a possibility of the EC call to communicate to them that
that we don't know.
That we don't know.
Okay.
So we need to clarify that with the letter.
We're still trying to get the EC to clarify exactly what happened. But Mr. Jeffrey, it couldn't just have been a typo there. Instead of AM they wrote PM, because the PSC didn't go, but they still sent a letter to us.
You see, they didn't just bring us a letter. They also sent us emails, and the emails have the same time. We checked and others got the same thing. How were we supposed to know that there was a mistake? If later they realized that they got the time wrong and communicated to other political parties that, hey, look, the time is not supposed to be 10 p.m., it is supposed to be, say, 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. or whatever. How come we never received any such communication to that effect? That is the question. You understand? And Evans, let's even put that aside. how can we trust the competence of this Mensah Bosmanasare-led EC to deliver credible elections in this country when they cannot even write a simple letter and get simple things, basic things as date, time correctly? But let's even put that aside and let's, address the issues you raised about their announcement that they will be proceeding with the new voter registration.
Yeah, the pilot is starting next week. The registration starts end of June, ends end of July.
Number one, it is pathetic and shameful that 6 months to a major general elections, the EC is unable to tell Ghanaians exactly when their so-called new voter registration exercise will start.
Isn't it because of the CI, which is also, there's a certain of uncertainty around it that, so they just simply
give that takes me to my second point. Number two, the time frame the EC has given you, which is being bandied around, take that from me, is a practical impossibility. There will not be any new voters registered between the period they have stipulated. Because if you understand the provisions, you appreciate the provisions of CI 91 and CI 126, which is yet to mature, and you have an appreciation of our electoral laws and systems, you will know that what they are trying to do, number one, is a practical impossibility, and the system they are trying to use for that registration, which will never see the light of the day anyway, is a recipe for chaos. And without dealing with the details, number one, it's not just about the maturity of the CI, which has been laid before Parliament. Because even when the CI matures, you are supposed to gazette all registration centers and notify political parties 21 days before you commence registration. So you don't know when your CI will mature. If you don't have a CI, you cannot gazette your registration centers. You need another 21 days notice to political parties. So put that one aside, okay? And then look at the system they are seeking to use for this registration exercise. Check, I'll forward to you the minutes of that supposed IPAC meeting they had on the 25th of March, at which the EC told political parties that they were going to use 44 days for this voter registration exercise they were seeking to undertake, 44 days. And that they were going to cluster polling stations into groups of 5. Use about 6,400 registration centers, 8,000 BVR equipments, and then do that within a period of 44 days. Today, realizing that what they are seeking to do is not possible given the time constraints on our hands, they have reduced the 44 days to 35 or 38 or so. And now they are not saying that instead of clustering polling stations in groups of 5, like they told political parties at the last IPAC meeting on the 25th of March, they will now be clustering them into groups of 6. What means is that instead of spending 8 days at every polling station to register eligible voters, they are now going to spend 6 days. Azerbaijan in 2012 spent 10 days at every polling station registering eligible voters. 10 days. You, at the last IPAC meeting, you said you were going to use 44 days, use clusters of 5 polling stations, meaning that you were going to spend 8 days. When you have a higher number of eligible voters to register, 17, 18 million. Now you have reduced that further to 6. So you don't need to be a prophet of doom or an angel to know that what the EC is trying to do is a recipe for chaos.
Well, I'm grateful that you joined me. We're trying to get an EC on this, just because of time. I'm grateful that you raised some of the issues. We'll put it to the Electoral Commission when we do get them. We are expecting a statement from them shortly, and that may provide some clarity on the issue. Sami Jemfi is the Director of Communications, Director of Communications Officer of the NDC. Now, the EC also laid out today protocols, COVID-19 safety protocols. We're going to go into that and analyze with the experts on Newsnight. Also tonight here on Newsnight, Speaker of Parliament warns MPs against disclosing the COVID-19 statuses of colleagues, as some 2 legislators and 13 staff reportedly test positive for the virus.
You cannot unilaterally put into the public realm that a person is positive. And it is my view that such sensationalism encourage stigmatization.
And we'll hear from him as some minority MPs demand a shutdown of the House. But tonight we ask, does the public have the right to know the COVID-19 status of their MPs?
We all go through the crowded in the same corridor. And it's not going to be easy. People touching the walls. I haven't seen anybody cleaning handrails regularly in this house. I haven't seen anybody cleaning door knobs or anything.
So tell me, I want to hear from you on WhatsApp, 0244340437. Are you entitled to know the status of your member of parliament following the test, the results that he gets? Do you feel entitled to know? Share with me your thoughts on that. Also tonight, many former MPs beg for handouts for survival as majority leader call for pension scheme for members of parliament.
The next thing you hear is that it's coming, it's calling you, please do something for me, otherwise it's bad. And it's from all sides.
They still call you?
They still call me.
Asking for what? Handouts?
Asking for survival. Some actually regret. Many of them regret.
We tell you why Chairman Sabuntu is pushing for a review of the ex gratia payments in a yet-to-be-aired interview on PM Express on the Joy News channel later tonight at 9 p.m. in Business Later.
Chamber of Commerce and Industry hints of finalizing 3 billion cedi stimulus package for industries.
And later in sports,